From a nod to a cult classic that inspired the games to the impending return of an iconic foe, all of the Easter eggs in Season 1 of Fallout add up to be a bountiful feast.
Damn, y'all ain't got me working up an appetite.
If we had a bottle cap for every time the Fallout franchise referenced an infamous Indiana Jones scene, well, we'd have 3 bottle caps. Yes, we're talking about that often derided moment from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in which Indy survives a nuclear test at the Nevada Doomtown site by hiding in a fridge. The interior logic of the film holds that the fridge, being lead-lined, would protect Indy from radiation. The exterior logic of reality holds that a nuclear explosion, being a nuclear explosion, would have given Dr. Jones an immediate game over, fridge or no fridge. In Fallout, Maximus is shown surviving the nuclear destruction of Shady Sands by hiding in a fridge. While it's a clear reference to the aforementioned Indiana Jones scene, it also harkens back to 2 similar sight gags in the Fallout games. The first is in Fallout New Vegas, where the player can discover a fridge filled with bones and Jones's signature hat. The second is the Kid in a Fridge side quest from Fallout 4.
My legs are so stiff. Everything's so different.
It's clear the Fallout team has always held Indiana Jones in high regard, so this scene should give those waiting for Bethesda's Indiana Jones video game a little hope. One of the most memorable locations from Season 1 is Philly, a seedy town that perfectly encapsulates just about every horrible aspect of the Wasteland in a few square miles. At the center of the town is a landfill that residents mine for pieces of discarded technology that they may be able to use or sell. This early locale provides Lucy with the perfect place to organically learn what she needs to know about this new world she's entered. Of course, she might learn a lot more if she spent a little more time investigating Ma June's storefront, which just so happens to sell a copy of the Wasteland Survival Guide. Conspicuously placed in the background of some shots, the Wasteland Survival Guide is well known to players of the Fallout games. Its author, Moira Brown, is an NPC inventor and shop owner who the player interacts with frequently during a multi-part side quest in Fallout 3. While it's unlikely that viewers will ever see Moira in the Prime Video series, it's strangely heartwarming to be reminded of her here. In Season 1, Episode 6, entitled The Trap, viewers learn more about the pre-war life of Cooper Howard, the actor-turned-ghoul played by Walton Goggins. Apparently, when he wasn't starring in Western flicks, Cooper was the commercial spokesman for Vault-Tec, the nefarious megacorporation responsible for building the dystopian vaults in which America's richest citizens survived the nuclear apocalypse.
Now that right there is Vault 4's 3-foot thick lead casing, strong enough to keep out the rads and the reds.
Of the 4 Fallout factions, Vault-Tec's power is the most absolute and perhaps the most deadly, too. As Cooper takes us on an appropriately sterile tour of Vault 4, a phone number flashes up on screen, 213-25-VAULT, or 213-258-2858. As some fans have already discovered, this phone number is actually active and tied to the Fallout series. If you're in the United States, you can call the number. When you do, you'll hear a voice, presumably that of Goggins' character, screaming in a manner that's totally jarring when compared to the commercial. It's one of the best real fake phone numbers we've seen in a while. The Trap also gives viewers a window into what Cooper Howard's home was like back when he had a nose and wasn't a murderer. On one of his walls, fans can spot a poster for one of his films, a Western titled A Man and His Dog. If that name sounds somewhat familiar, it might be because you've come across the real 1975 science fiction comedy film A Boy and His Dog. This cult favorite is set in what was then the not-too-distant future year of 2024. The United States has been largely eradicated by a nuclear war that took place decades earlier. It's unknown whether this film exists in the Fallout universe, but what's interesting is that A Boy and His Dog and the Fallout video games share a lot of creative DNA. Jesse Heinig, one of the creators of the original game, told The Escapist that they took a lot of inspiration from the film, from underground communities of survivors to glowing mutants. He also revealed that he thinks the famous dog from the Fallout games was named after a line from the movie as well. He said, "My understanding is that Fallout designer Scott Benny settled on the name Dogmeat for the character, and it's likely that he did pick that from the story in question."
I said fine, and I ain't kidding.
One does not say ain't, Albert. Simply say, I'm not kidding.
Fine, dog meat. And stop calling me Albert.
Speaking of dog meat, this leads us to yet another Easter egg. In Season 1, the trusty canine companion becomes acquainted with the ghoul after the latter stabs her during a fight, only for him to revive her with a stim pack before ultimately adopting her permanently. He does so after rescuing her from a Nuka-Cola cooler at a Red Rocket gas station, which just so happens to be how the player protagonist in Fallout 4 meets their own canine companion, also named Dogmeat. Yes, this may give Fallout fans who care about continuity a bit of a headache, since these two meetings happen around a decade apart and on opposite sides of the country. Still, it's a great scene nonetheless. It could also be argued that the ghoul previously starring in this universe's version of A Boy and His Dog improves the moment by granting it some extra narrative weight. In general, the Fallout series fixes everything wrong with dog meat, so it's hard to be angry with little inconsistencies. As an added little Easter egg, viewers may also notice that the gas station used in the Fallout series was also used for a set piece in the first John Wick film. In Episode 7, entitled The Radio, we're introduced to a small family living in a secluded area where they're enjoying a nice, peaceful existence in a world otherwise overrun by callous cruelty. Unfortunately for them, such cruelty is waiting in their kitchen in the form of the ghoul, munching on whatever meat he's managed to find in their modest home. Adam, the patriarch of the family, wears a helmet that should be instantly recognizable to fans of Fallout New Vegas. As seen on the game's memorable box art, it's part of an armor set belonging to the New California Republic Rangers, which could indicate that Adam was once a member of their forces. However, based on their living situation and routines, it can also be hypothesized that Adam merely found this outfit while scavenging. In any case, putting the character in what would be the NCR equivalent of a law enforcement uniform is likely a cheeky nod to the actor that plays Adam, former Chip star Eric Estrada. In this classic procedural, Estrada plays a member of the California Highway Patrol. Even though his scene in Fallout is horribly tragic, he's a welcome and surprising face in the Wasteland. Perhaps the most Easter egg-rich scene in the whole first season is the secret evil cabal meeting in which the various executives spitball some post-nuclear Fallout plans. As part of a deal struck with Vault-Tec, the other executives present were gifted vaults which they could populate and use to conduct experiments, ostensibly to determine the ideal path forward for humanity. This quickly devolved into bloodthirsty billionaires sharing their best ideas for torturing trapped humans, at least 3 of which were pulled from the Fallout games. The tamest of the options thrown out is a vault that would be intentionally overcrowded. This eventually became Vault 15, which appeared in the first Fallout game back in 1997. Also referenced are Vault 87, where inhabitants were used as lab rats in the evolutionary experimentation program, and Vault 106, which had psychoactive drugs pumped through its air filtration system. And then there's the appearance of the CEO of the multi-billion-dollar robotics and software corporation, Robco, famous for developing the bafflingly advanced yet archaic operating system seen throughout the Fallout universe. Fans of Fallout New Vegas surely recognized him as Robert House, who appeared from the neck up in the game as a major character.
You needn't be afraid of me. It's my Securitrons that are going to kill you.
His attendance at this clandestine meeting provides a new and exciting explanation for why he was so well prepared when the nukes were fired. As seen in New Vegas, Mr. House was able to use the complete destruction of society for his own personal gain, becoming a despotic ruler with unmatched influence and power. He was inspired to pursue his own digital immortality, jamming his consciousness inside a computer. He's basically the Arnim Zola of the Fallout universe. The Season 1 finale is disquieting for a whole host of reasons, chief among them being the awkward reunion between Lucy and her father Hank. When Lee Moldaver claims that Lucy's father is actually a Vault-Tec envoy, Hank confirms this horrible truth by entering the passcode to activate the cold fusion reactor. The precise code he enters is 101097. This can be translated to the date October 10th, 1997, the date the original Fallout game was released to the public. But there's a catch to this Easter egg. For whatever reason, be it poor record-keeping, online stubbornness, or something else entirely, there's some debate about when the first Fallout was actually released. October 10th is the date you'll find on the game's Wikipedia page, which itself references an old Now Shipping article from PC Gamer. However, Steam lists the release date as September 30th, and even commemorated this date at least once with a special anniversary discount for the game. Fans have even reached out to developers directly for clarification, but even they are largely split on the issue. The general consensus among them seems to be that September 30th was the date the game was prepared for shipment, and that it was released in stores between October 6th and October 10th. Programmer Tim Kaine, who co-created the game, said on Reddit that he considers the exact date of release to be October 7th. Whatever the case, the code is a fun, if potentially imperfect, inclusion for Fallout experts. When the camera reveals the remains of what was once New Vegas in Season 1's final moments, viewers are treated to a tease of a fan-favorite enemy. That is, if fan-favorite can mean an enemy that was always a pain in the butt to deal with. The skull resting in the Mojave Sands, without question, belongs to a Deathclaw, a creature which can arguably be dubbed the apex predator of the post-war Fallout universe. Deathclaws could also ironically be considered pre-war relics, as these genetically engineered creatures were originally created to fight alongside the old US military. Once that military ceased to exist, along with the US itself, the Deathclaws spread across the land and their numbers multiplied exponentially. With every new trailer Amazon released for Fallout, fans grew more anxious to see them in live action. Some were likely disappointed in the series for only using the skull of one, but this was a strategic move. The creators of the show have acknowledged that by excluding the Deathclaws, they were leaving out an iconic part of the Fallout world. But they felt their status was precisely why they deserved more attention than could be afforded in the packed first season. Co-showrunner Graham Wagner told The Wrap, "We wanted to get Deathclaws, but we didn't want to just throw it away. It's such a monumental piece, so Season 2 we're very excited to finally tackle one of the most iconic elements of the games." If there was any moment in the series that caused concern among Fallout fans, it was the revelation that Shady Sands has been decimated by a nuclear bomb. What was particularly troubling about this, aside from the destruction of one of the franchise's most beloved locales, was a timeline that seemingly implied this decimation had taken place in 2277. Given that Fallout New Vegas takes place in 2281, this would effectively render the game non-canon. Fortunately for the game's many fans, longtime Fallout developer Todd Howard, who also serves as an executive producer on the Amazon series, has confirmed that New Vegas is indisputably canon and that Shady Sands was destroyed soon after the game's events. He told IGN, "There might be a little bit of confusion in some places, but everything that happened in the previous games, including New Vegas, happened. We're very careful about that." It seems that Shady Sands fell in some form in 2277, but wasn't actually nuked until a few years later. This still leaves the question of why New Vegas seems to be destroyed, or at least in a state of severe disrepair, when it appears during the finale. Taking its state into account, this could be a clue that some version of the Caesar's Legion ending, in which the player helps drive out the NCR and the Legion takes control, is currently canon. This would provide one explanation for the decline of New Vegas, with a brutal totalitarian faction having taken over.